everybody, we're spicing things up and learning all about the meat industry. We'll be taking a tour of AC Leg and the Auburn University Meats Lab. We'll be learning about how they're creating flavorful experiences for students and consumers. Hey everybody, we're here in Calera, Alabama at AC Leg, and we're here with Jennifer. And Jennifer, tell us a little bit about who you are and where we are today.
Absolutely. I'm Jennifer Beckett. I am the Food Safety and Regulatory Compliance Manager here at AC Leg. We are a custom blended seasonings manufacturer. We make many products for the meat industry and other applications, and we've been located in Calera for the last 22, 23 years at our new facility.
All right, well, can we take a look at what you do and what happens here at this facility?
Absolutely.
All right.
Megan, we have arrived in our main level office area. This is the hub where a lot of the customer interactions happen. So we have our customer service department here. We have some offices, including mine behind us. And over here, we've got what I call our creative corner, which is where our R&D team works to create a lot of our recipe formulations and our different flavor profiles.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit more specifically about your work, what it is that you do here.
Sure, so my main focus is the food safety and regulatory aspect. I do have some crossover with quality assurance. That will lead me to internal inspections in the facility, making sure that our sanitation practices, our GMPs are being followed by our employees, that we're following our SOPs for our production activities. I also do a lot of monitoring of regulatory laws, different bills coming down the pipe, trying to make sure that we're going to comply with the latest and greatest legislation as far as food safety and regulatory concerns go. And I also do a great deal of interacting with customers for customer requests and things like that, and some of our training programs that we have for our employees.
Okay, so can we see your work in action, maybe what you do on the plant side?
I would love that. We can go right out and see where the action happens.
All right, cool.
So Megan, anytime we enter the production facility where food handling occurs, we do have to don our proper PPE. So we have our facial glasses, our hair nets, beard nets if you're a guy and have facial hair, and then our smocks. And that essentially protects our products from potential contamination, and it also protects us from getting particulate on ourselves during the process.
Okay. So essentially what AC Leg does is a customer comes to them and maybe wants to make a specialized blend. And so what does that process look like? How does that happen?
Yeah, so that would kick off with our R&D team and technical services. They would decide what flavor profile, what functional ingredients are needed to perform properly in the finished product. They'll send a sample out. The sample would be approved or maybe have some adjustments made to it. And then once it is approved and accepted, that's when the blend moves out into the production mode and what you're about to see here on our production floor.
Okay, cool.
Megan, we have entered our receiving area. This is where the magic begins, you could say. So this is where we accept our incoming raw ingredients for all of our different blends and finished products. Here we've just received some soy protein concentrate and some other items that will go through our initial receiving process. We do have CCPs with our HACCP program in place to look for any signs of infestation, filth, anything that could become a potential contaminant to our finished products. And so those checks have to be done and approved before we actually move the items into inventory from a food safety aspect.
Oh, okay. How long does that take to test all of that?
It depends. There are different incubation periods based on what analytes we're testing for. Of course, we focus on pathogens that can cause illness. We also just do the standard total plate count, yeast and mold, really based on customer requirements and their end use of our seasonings, whether it's going to go through a lethality step in the cooking process or smoking or some other kind of thermal process in their facility, or whether it's going to be more of an RTE item.
Okay. So about how many flavorings do you have, or products do you have?
We have anywhere between 500 and 600 raw ingredients that we use to make our finished custom blends and our house line blends under the AC Leg signature line.
Okay, so they're just coming from all over different, companies or...
That's correct. We use some domestic suppliers as well as brokers who will source our foreign spices from different countries.
So when the product arrives or the ingredient arrives, they already know what it's going to be used for?
Typically,
check?
yes,
Okay.
yes. We'll have all that information. That's part of what's established at the sampling stage when we're developing blends for customers. They'll let us know what their regulatory, food safety, and quality requirements are so that we can make sure we meet those standards in our finished blends using these ingredients.
Okay, sounds good. So then what happens once it's passed inspection, it's ready to go, it just goes into the floor and...
That's right. So we have an electronic inventory system. So all of this information gets logged for tracking purposes in the cases of a consumer question, in the case that there was an issue with an ingredient or a recall associated with something. We would have all of that tracking information from the original grower/supplier through our system all the way to the end customer.
Sort of some of the things that you do on the floor as part of your job.
Every day is a little bit different, but typically I'm involved with internal audits. So those are inspections that our team does internally on a monthly basis or more often if needed, just to check the conditions of the plant, to observe what employees are doing to make sure they're following our GMPs, our SOPs for our different processes, to keep the food safe and themselves safe as they work. And then I also look at the conditions of the plant itself, as long as everything's been sanitized properly, cleaned properly, level of organization, anything that could cause a potential contamination issue, just the general condition of the environment to make sure that we're operating to promote the best food safety and quality that we possibly can.
Okay. So what would it look like here if you were inspecting, like in this
So
station?
if I were walking around an internal audit, I have my iPad here. We do have an electronic form that we fill out. It's really neat because it's a real-time snapshot of what we're finding, and we can attach photo evidence, descriptions of what we found that needs to be corrected, and then the proper employees are notified immediately through their iPads, the Red Zone system, that they need to check these areas and issue corrective actions to make sure everything is brought back into compliance.
Oh, okay.
So I would walk around, I have my little flashlight handy.
Yeah.
I would look in all the nooks and crannies to make sure that we've had proper cleaning procedures followed. I'll look at the integrity of the machines, if there's any kind of potential source for contamination from a piece of metal or a rubber tube component or something like that. I'm just looking at all the details to make sure that we're not going to create any problems during our processing that could be an issue for our consumers.
Yeah. So about how long does it take you to do a full inspection, or do you do it in pieces?
Typically, we'll take a block of time, say 2.5 hours. We will go through the entire main level of the plant, and it won't just be me, it'll also be parts of our employees who have been trained in how to do internal audits and what to look for. So it helps have fresh sets of eyes on everything to ensure we don't miss anything, and it also helps them to become more familiar with what we're looking for when we're doing these inspections and how to maintain the proper environment on a daily basis.
So, like, how many pounds or how much supply does a customer order from you all? Like, how much are you making for them?
It really depends on their needs. We can do anything from a smaller order for someone who's making things out of their own homes to a smaller customer, and we typically use our distributors for that. So they carry a lot of our signature leg line items. that they can choose from in smaller quantities, as well as we can do custom blends for them as long as they meet the minimum order quantity of 250 pounds.
Okay, wow, okay. So what are the signature blends?
So that's our house line blends. Actually, that's what our company was founded on. A butcher shop in downtown Birmingham back in the early 1920s had a single pork sausage seasoning, which is our Legs Blend 10. And it became so popular in the community that they started selling it in larger and larger quantities. And they developed a sales team that started traveling the country. And it became so popular that we ended up expanding our custom line to different versions of that blend and all kinds of other blends for different applications like marinades, rubs, even things beyond meat products over the years.
So what are we looking at here?
So this is our scooping area. This is where we stage different ingredients. We scoop the amounts based on what's required in the recipe, and those ingredients are packaged up nicely and staged to go to the blender for later processing.
Okay, so your recipe is in scoops and not cups, right?
It's actually typically in ounces or pounds.
Ounces, okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so they would measure it. Oh, they measure it here with the scoop and then...
That's correct. So they'll verify that the weight is properly done for whatever the recipe calls for. And then we have checks in place to ensure that the formula is accurate. And that's part of their job here with the single ingredients. And then those will all go into a staging pallet to be further processed at the blender.
So once you've got all your staged ingredients ready to go, what happens next?
So at that point, they will be brought to the blending area. As you can see, we use a pallet system. So we would have each of those ingredients bagged up. They would have their lot tracing information, and that way they can just be poured, screened into the blender. That's another aspect where we try to control potential for material contamination by using screens, as well as breaking up any kind of clumping that may have happened in storage. So then each ingredient would be loaded into the blender through the screens. They'll use the auger system. We have ribbon blenders which have an auger inside. So they would use that system to start actually mixing the ingredients together. Each one has a specific time depending on the nature of the ingredients and what the customer needs. Once that blending cycle is finished, all of those mixed ingredients that are now homogeneous will drop through the floor in a gravity-fed system down to our packaging machines downstairs.
Oh, okay. So about how long? So that's the blender, like right there?
This is one of our larger blenders,
Okay.
yes.
And like how long does it take it to like fully blend? Does it just depend?
It depends. A lot of times they'll do a series of blending cycles, some short, some a little bit longer, depending on if we're adding oil components. Those need to be broken down on carrier items like salt, sugar, dextrose, whatever's in that blend that we can actually help the salt become homogenized with the other ingredients. So that might take its own blending cycle, and then they'll add some of the other different particle sizes of ingredients. And that way, at the end, you'll have a complete mixture of everything that's pretty consistent
wow.
throughout.
I was just thinking they dumped it all in at one time, but no, there's very meticulous.
It's
of
very
when you do
meticulous,
it.
yes.
That's fascinating. Oh, wow. So then it just feeds down and gets ready to get packaged.
Absolutely. It goes
easy.
through the filling machine downstairs, and I can show you more of that when we go downstairs.
Okay, cool. So now it's ready to be shipped? Now
That's right. It's gone through blending, packaging. Now we're ready to ship it out the door to our customers. So we have palletized everything. We have the proper labeling, food safety, Department of Transportation regulations, all that kind of good stuff. So the customer has ease of identification when it gets to their facility.
Okay, so once it reaches the customer, what are some examples of how customers are using your product?
So many of our products do go into finished meat applications, things like ribs, brisket, pork products, sausages. We even have some items that can be used in dips, like for Football Saturday. So it's really the sky is the limit on whatever our customer's looking for.
All right, so typically we could be eating it every day, your product every day.
That's very true. It may not have our AC Leg brand name on it, but many of our customers use custom products that come from our facility here in Calera, Alabama.
So Jennifer, you're a College of Agriculture graduate. Tell me a little bit about your journey to the college, how you got there, and maybe what you did while you were there.
Yeah, so I have a family history of Auburn alumni and loved visiting the campus and the college growing up, and I knew that's where I wanted to be. So I ended up in the College of Ag because I was very passionate about animals, learning more about animal husbandry, agriculture. I ended up picking the pre-vet animal science route, so that's where I ended up once I declared a major.
So you were an animal science pre-vet major. How did you end up at AC Leg and on the meat side of the industry?
Yeah, so I got involved with pre-vet animal science because I was so passionate about learning more about animals. And I had several classes that actually introduced me to different areas of agriculture that I really wasn't that familiar with. And one of those classes was Intro to Animal Science, there toward the beginning after I declared my major. And one of the units we did was touring the Auburn Meats Lab. And I just thought it was so fascinating the way they handled the animals, how I got to see the process from the very start to the very finish, where we had products in the retail store up front that we got to sell to students and faculty. And so I decided I would apply for a job at the meat lab as part of my overall college experience. Ended up getting a job there and worked there for 3 years total. And that's how I actually became familiar with AC Leg, because AC Leg is very passionate about giving back to educational institutions and promoting further education for all students and people, employees. So they actually provided a lot of the seasonings that we used in our meat products at the meat lab. And so I got to know the salesman who represented that sales territory for AC Leg, and he recommended me for an open position in our quality assurance food safety department at the time. So I had an interview right out of college after I graduated with that major and ended up working here, and I've been happily working here for the last 15 years.
What advice can you give students to help them be successful? Like, what should they be doing now in college to help set them up for success?
I would say one of the key things from my personal experience is really just keeping an open mind, as cliche as that sounds. I took a chance on applying for that job at the meat lab, learning things I had never been exposed to before, I really didn't know a lot about, but that opened this whole new chapter in my 15 years here of employment, because I took that step. So I would just encourage them to pay attention to the opportunities, go to their advisors, even go to the dean, depending on their areas of interest, and find out more, even asking fellow students for opinions on their experiences and what they've enjoyed, and finding things that align with their personal passions and where they imagine themselves in the next 5, 10 plus years.
Yeah, that's really great advice to ask questions and really put yourself out there. That's great. So what are the opportunities for students who maybe want to come and work at AC Leg?
That's actually something our upper management has been discussing a lot in recent years. We're looking for opportunities to partner with universities and even some high school level agencies on having being mentors to these students, and also providing internship opportunities depending on our needs, especially in the R&D and technical services areas where we formulate, create blends, work with flavors, and help customers troubleshoot and apply the seasonings in their finished products in the meat industry. Another way for Auburn students to connect with what we're doing here at AC Leg is to attend some of the short courses they offer on campus. A lot of those do happen at the meats laboratory and the beef unit and some of the other areas regarding animal science studies. And so we will send some of our technical services and R&D representatives to help with those courses. And so the students get a hands-on experience in addition to some of the technical knowledge and how our seasonings and muscle foods and all of that tie into the finished products that are sold on the store shelves.
Okay. Were you able to sit in on that class when you were in school?
I did, and that's part of what got me so interested in following this route in my life, was actually getting to experience that firsthand, and like I said, looking for opportunities to learn about things that I just haven't known about to that degree before.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that. everybody, we're here at the Auburn University Meats Lab and I'm here with Barney. So Barney, tell me a little bit about yourself and where we are today.
We're here at the Auburn University Meat Lab. The Meat Lab is part of the Animal Science Department in the College of Agriculture. We're here to teach students how to raise livestock, and for our part of it, we're really focusing on the food side of food animal production, largely cattle, hogs, sheep, and goats. I've been here for 20 years, since 2005. Right after the construction of this facility was completed. And I'm here just to manage the day-to-day with my 4 full-time employees and about 10 student employees to make sure that we're ready for the lab exercises that our professors have planned for their classes, and to also support their research operations, and then also to manage the store that we have open to the public.
All right, well, can we learn a little bit more about, or see a little bit more about what you do?
Absolutely, we'd love to show you.
Okay, great. So Barney, tell me a little bit about this classroom space.
So this classroom space is really one of the nicest features about this meat lab as compared to the old meat lab or some other places that might have similar programs. This room is what allows us to be able to host students in large numbers and teach them everything that we do from a meat processing standpoint in a fully capable, wash down ready, inspection ready, refrigerated processing room.
Okay, and then this facility is set up to really walk them through that whole process of how it becomes a finished product.
Exactly, exactly. A lot of the work that it requires to produce meat from food animals is in the post-harvest area. A lot of the time is during the live animal production, and our students learn about all of those things, but the amount of work that it takes to go from a live animal to a finished meat product that's ready to be taken home and cooked and consumed is very labor intensive.
Okay, so tell us about what we'll be seeing this afternoon. What will the students be doing in their lab?
So we're actually going to have 2 labs going on at the same time this afternoon. So our introduction to animal science are our freshman and sophomore students that learn a little bit about every area of food animal production. Today is their day to be at the meat lab. They've been at the equine unit, they've been to the swine unit, they've been to the beef unit, they've learned all about the live animal production aspects in an introduction format. And today they'll be at the meat lab. So they'll get to see what a beef carcass looks like, what the basics of evaluating a beef carcass are, and that will be a good introduction to some of the later courses that we offer and more advanced concepts related to food animal processing. We'll also at the same time have our junior and senior level meat processing class, which is a smaller class. They'll be in the plant making some fermented sausages this afternoon. So they've learned how to make several processed meat products in previous labs. Today is fermented sausages. So they're going to be making some summer sausage and some salami and maybe a unique product that that most people haven't heard of, but it's also a fermented sausage. So that'll be a lot of fun.
So Barney, tell us a little bit more in detail about how are the students going to make the sausage? What does that really look like step by step?
So what they're going to do first is we're going to come in and we're going to have a little discussion about what we're trying to accomplish today. I'm going to let them try a product that I want them to try to match. And we're going to suppose how that product was made and what ingredients are in it. And then we're going to get dressed out. We're going to go into the plant. We're going to start weighing up ingredients. They're going to grind the meat. They'll blend the seasonings and spices and functional ingredients that they've formulated into the product. And then we're going to stuff it into the appropriate casing. And then since we're making fermented sausages today, the next step will be to let those sausages go through a natural fermentation where a starter culture that we added to the product will produce lactic acid to drop the pH and give it that tang that a salami and a pepperoni is expected to have. And then subsequently we'll cook the product in the smokehouse. And then the last step for these products is a drying step because they're expected to lose moisture and thereby become shelf stable.
Okay, so how long does that process take?
This one's a little bit longer. So the grinding and stuffing will take about an hour. The fermentation will take anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. The cooking will take another 4 to 6 hours, and then the drying could take as much as a week to 2 weeks to 4 weeks even for some products.
Okay, and you have a partnership, or you use AC Leg Seasonings. So tell us about how that came to be and like just how you use their seasonings.
Sure, of course. So AC Leg is a spice blender in Birmingham, Alabama, just south of Birmingham in Calera, Alabama. And we have had a partnership with them. They've been very supportive of our programs for generations, literally generations. So they support us by providing the seasonings that we need for the products that we make in class and the products that we sell in our store. And then they also support our programs through scholarships. Right now, I believe we have 4 former students working for AC Leg and have had several over the years that have worked there as well. So it's a really strong partnership. They spend time here working on developing their products from time to time, and that's really good exposure for our students to see not just what they're doing in the classroom or in the lab, but people in the industry doing the actual work day to day on developing meat products for the public.
Okay. So now are you all choosing the spices or are they just sending you spice ones? How's that work?
It works either way. So a spice blender like AC Leg will have what they call house blends of pre-blends that you can choose and use, or they'll blend your custom blend for you. Because we're a teaching institution, they support us even in more ways than that. They're happy to provide us with individual ingredients, which we need for teaching. In the classes that we teach, we're teaching students how to use each individual ingredient, what its function is, its appropriate usage level, and what products it's appropriate to use them in. They have to learn those things. For day-to-day production for the products that we make for the store, we're commonly using mostly pre-blends so that we can produce consistent products day after day, week after week that our customers have come accustomed to and love.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the store that you run.
So the store that we run is open to the public 2 days a week, Thursday 2 to 5 and Friday 11 to 5. Anybody that lives in the community or travels here from out of state is welcome to come in and shop the products that we make here at the Meat Lab. Our students have a hand in making all of the products that we sell, and our customers really enjoy interacting with us in that way, and most of them love the products. They'll take them home to their families if they're here from out of state. And that's been a real success of our program going back to the 60s, honestly.
Oh, wow. So tell me about, why do you think it's so important that students have this hands-on experience during their time?
The hands-on experience that the students get here is important because it's very difficult to get this type of experience any other way. Some of our students do have farm experience before they come to college. There are more opportunities to get live animal farm experience. It's very, very difficult to get meat processing experience in a safe learning environment. So for our students to take advantage of this while they're here is critical. The students that work hard in class and take advantage of the hands-on skills development that we provide are going to be the most prepared and the most desirable future employees.
Yeah. So you employ several students at the Meats Lab. So tell me about that. What's the work that they're doing, and how do students kind of get plugged in with you if they have an interest in meat science?
So the students that work here, there's the opportunity is very vast. The outlying units in our department, from the beef unit to the swine unit to the equestrian center to the Meat Lab, we employ one of the largest numbers of students here, again, because it takes so much work to do this. So pretty much any student that's interested in this will have an opportunity to work here if they want to during the 3-4 years that they're here at Auburn. And they do everything. Because it's a teaching facility, we do every part of the processing, from harvest to fabrication to processing, and a lot of sanitation, but we don't do everything every day. So our students have the opportunity to rotate through all of the areas of the process, and if they choose to hone in on a particular area, whether it's sanitation or further processing or harvest, they have the opportunity to do that.
Okay. Well, thanks for chatting with us today.
Absolutely.